Hello, so I'm Milda, and let me spend some time and try to navigate you through the main topics which you should consider while migrating or planning to migrate to Qlik's cloud. So Qlik's recommended migration approach has several phases. And so since migration to Qlik's cloud can be treated as a project, it should start with discovery and assessment of your current Qlik's landscape. I mean, you have to evaluate, is the current implementation in a good shape or not? Because the goal should be to identify the candidates for application candidates for migration. What will you move first? Set priorities, exclude some applications which are purely managed, and because all of that might prolong the migration process. So evaluate your applications, data sources, extensions, different customizations, users, and their security and access levels. Identify some dependencies, maybe some technical limitations, potential challenges, which might rise during the migration process. Look closely into components and features that are different between Qlik on-premise and Qlik Cloud. So search what has changed, because in Qlik Cloud we have much more features. This could help you to design and improve current solution during migration phase. And this will not only help you to anticipate and address the risks, but will also identify the great opportunities to work on. So for example, big improvements can be achieved if you start using Qlik Cloud features like alerting, subscription reporting, Qlik application automation. So I will talk during my presentation more about those. So during this presentation, I will not give you some guided, detailed instructions how to perform migration, what are the steps to perform a migration to Qlik Cloud, but mainly I will focus on assessment and planning and what major topics must be discussed during this presentation phase. So we will start with user authentication model. So which one to choose? We will talk about security and governance, what to be considered. Do you have some development workflow? Do you need to consider multiple environments and how to work, how to deploy those in Qlik Cloud? What about data storage? Where do you keep files? Maybe you are using not standard visualization, but customized extensions. What about personal sheets, stories, and bookmarks? How to move them? How to migrate them? Do we have some limitation on the size of an application? What about reloading? Is there some kind of scheduling? How to work on that? And the last part will be dedicated for imprinting and its reporting. So all those multiple topics, all of them are manageable during the migration. But as you can see, I have highlighted several of those, actually 4 of them, which in my opinion, must be addressed with most importance, because those topics will be quite important for customers with big deployments. Like, so what is this big deployment like? You have more than 100 users, you have dozens of applications, you have different reports in imprinting, and maybe you even have your own development, multi-person development team. So let's talk about all of those topics separately. So first of all, let's start with user authentication method. In Qlik Cloud, Qlik automatically provisions a default identity provider, which is called Qlik account. And it makes easier to get started with the platform. So Qlik account is a Qlik-provided authentication mechanism to access properties within qlik.com and qlikcloud.com domains. What is more, you can also choose your own identity provider. And here I have provided a list which are supported in Qlik Cloud. So for example, Microsoft Entra, formerly known as Azure Active Directory, or Okta, or others. From our experience, we see that most customers rely on the first one, Microsoft Entra. So you don't need to create users manually in Qlik Cloud. They are synchronized automatically with attributes, and as a result, you get a good experience for users with single sign-on. What is more, think about user migration plan. Since user identity will be different in Qlik Cloud, so it might make sense to migrate users maybe in groups, if it's possible. So this will prevent users from needing to log into different Qlik environments at the same time. So I mean for both client managed and cloud. Okay. Next one, security and governance. So Qlik Cloud has different security and governance management compared to QlikSense managed or enterprise installation. And this actually might be the largest challenge during the migration. In Qlik Cloud, there is no possibility to create and define custom security rules, right? Because in most cases, there were some, in order to accomplish some security and governance, most probably in your installation, in your deployment, you have some customized rules to manage everything. So what's the difference? In QlikSense client managed, security rules and custom properties combination allows to control security and object access and almost any granularity. So you are able to customize, let's say, almost unlimited without any limits. In Qlik Cloud, there is a slightly different approach. There are already a large number of predefined security roles on a tenant level. They are already predefined, they are already created. And this removes the need to create custom rules like the ones which you did in client managed. So using these predefined security roles, it is possible to manage security on tenant level, on space level, and even in some cases on application level. If we talk about section access, which is data restriction inside an application, so in Qlik Cloud, there is, well, it is dependent on different identity attributes, and you might need some adjustment in migrated apps. For example, user ID. It will be slightly different in Qlik Cloud and not the same as on-premise you used to use. So you might need to adjust your application section access scripts, but just slightly. So this will not be a huge change during the migration. So just keep this in mind. Next one, development workflow and multiple environments. So before continuing this, first of all, I need to introduce with a new term, which is spaces. So spaces in Qlik Cloud are alternative to streams in QlikSense on-premise. So there are several types of spaces, actually 3 of them. Personal, which is a private work area, like your personal sandbox, where assets can be created, developed, stored, saved, and those assets like applications and data files. You cannot share applications from your personal space, and other users cannot collaborate with you. So additional spaces cannot be created as well. So this tenant space is offered by default for each user which logs in, and allows them to upload applications, data files, create new applications for personal use, but for personal use only. So actually, this personal space is the same as you have work stream in Qlik and Client Managed. It's the same, and it comes by default. Another space type is shared. So this space, it's a collaborative work area where assets can be developed and shared with other assigned members inside that space. So basically, it's created for teamwork. And the last one is managed space. Again, it's a collaborative area where only space owner and target application consumer can open the application. They can create only personal sheets, bookmarks inside that application, but they cannot change what was initially developed. So we can say that managed space is equal or almost the same as a stream where you used to publish the developed application for consumption. So now during the migration, if you have already some streams in Qlik Client Managed, so how to convert this into spaces in Qlik Cloud. And actually, there is a very simple rule. You can map it one-to-one. So streams, which you have in managed, you can convert to managed spaces. And this rule is simple, and it's backed up by Qlik best practices, which were created based on many migration projects. So personal, basically, it's the same as it was in Qlik Sense on-premise. Managed space is the same as streams. So the only new thing is shared space. Right? So this is the only new feature, which is actually very, very important if you have development team, which needs to work and collaborate. So let me show you some example how different types of spaces are used can be used in development workflow and allows to separate different environments. So just for information, the blue icons are shared spaces where developer teams can collaborate and develop applications. And red ones are managed spaces where developed application is published and used. So how development workflow could look. So a developer starts building an application in personal space, a sandbox at the bottom. And later it is duplicated and moved into development space, so the whole developer team can collaborate on the application. The team makes some changes, and once the development is completed and ready to be tested, the application is published to the test managed space, so the red one. And so here, testers review the application, and if all looks good, then it can be published to another managed space, which is production. So this is like a first cycle, how application goes from creation to user consumption. But, well, the life doesn't stop here. Developers need to develop a new version of an application, like a normal evolution of an application. So what they do, they start by duplicating the previous version in development space. Why not develop on the same, but do the duplication, the copy? It's because that maybe there will be a need to make some bug fix in the version of production. And then we will have in our development space the same version, which is currently in production. To work on this without impacting ongoing development, the version of application that was published to production is duplicated in the regression space. So you might think about a new shared type space, which you might call regression, and this will be dedicated for quick bug fixes which appeared in production. So developers are able to address the bug and then publish the fix to the test space with replace functionality. Testers retest the application here, and once testing is completed, it's confirmed that the bug is fixed. Developers then republish the fixed application back to production by publishing and replacing. And users continue using. No personal content is gone. It stays there. Then developers are ready to continue their development. So what they do first, they merge the changes which was done to fix the production issue into their development application. So they continue working on this new version until it is developed and it is being ready to be tested. So the application then is being published to the test space. And of course, usually there might be several iterations, like during the test there are some, again, bugs or issues identified. Developers, again, make the changes in development space, publish it back to the test, and so on. So there might be several iterations. And well, finally, when everything is ready, the new version of an application is ready, it is being published to production space, again, by replacing the previous version. And as I mentioned before, during the replacing, personal community sheets are preserved. So this is how the development workflow might look. As you can see, it is much more easier to work in a bigger developers team, to collaborate, and it's a really nice feature which exists in Qlik Cloud, which was lacking, and we were missing it quite a lot in Qlik on-premise, Qlik Sense on-premise. Okay, let's move on. Data files, storage, and Qlik deployment framework folders. So usually every Qlik Sense on-premise deployment has file storage from a network drive and have a certain file folder structure to store business files, like extracted QVD files maybe, or transformed QVD files. And the structure might have been created manually, so those folders, subfolders might have been created manually, or maybe you have used Qlik deployment framework tool to create that. So now, first option is that Qlik Cloud can store data files into spaces, right? For example, you might have a space to store the data, like extract, transform, and etc. However, there is a small limitation that space cannot be subdivided in folders. But this feature to create folders and subfolders inside the space is coming. So it should be in the near future, and we really hope that it will arrive pretty soon. So there is also another option, an alternative, is to use external cloud-based storage, such as Amazon S3, Azure Storage, Cloud, Google Cloud Storage, SharePoint, and others. And this approach even allows us to reuse Qlik deployment framework. If you have used it on-premise, you can reuse it in the cloud as well. Migration from Qlik deployment framework on-premise to Qlik deployment framework on cloud is pretty simple, mainly because if you used this approach, it means that most probably you are using variables to store file path definitions inside your script. And if it works through those variables, then it will be really simple to migrate your application scripts and switch from QDF folders on premise to QDF folders on the cloud storage. Qlik deployment framework in cloud is available for free now. We also got confirmation from Qlik persons that it is safe to use for production implementation. So you can download it even today from Git and start using that. Okay, let's move on to the fifth one, visualization extensions. So Qlik offers a visual object library, which is much more wider than on-premise one. So when you plan migration, you need to investigate this library before considering how to continue with any open source extensions, which if you're using those. And maybe you will find that there are some standard visual objects which gives the same result as the custom extension which you are currently using. And then it's better to rebuild the object using this native functionality instead of pushing a customized extension to the cloud. But in any case, if you have some extensions which are really needed, you can import them into Qlik Cloud. Of course, there is no limitations, but well, as always, you must do the test and check everything if it works as expected. Another one, let's talk about personal sheet stories and bookmarks. Those things, those entities cannot be moved automatically and cannot be assigned automatically to the owners of those sheets, so the owners who created those sheets or stories or bookmarks. So all of them, they should be migrated with a tool and then reassigned to appropriate Qlik Cloud user account. And in order not to make this manual, there is a Qlik Developers Toolkit, which will help you to automate those actions. So you can refer to toolkits under qlik.dev portal, and you will find those which might help you during the migration. Additionally, application size. So do we have some limitation? And during the previous presentation, Saulis already mentioned that there are some. So actually, there are two standards for limitation of Qlik application size in cloud. And this depends on the pricing model. So two pricing models. Qlik and SaaS, which in other words, we can say it's user model. Data is unlimited, but application size is limited, and application size cannot be more than 5 gigabytes in RAM. Which, well, it's hard to say exactly how many rows it might be, because it depends on if your data model is optimal, how many fields you have, how many distinct values in each field you have. But in a very, very rough estimation, we can say 5 gigabytes in RAM, it's around between 50 and 100 million rows. But then there is another pricing model, Qlik Cloud Analytics, or in other words, capacity-based model, where users are unlimited, but data analyzed is limited. And application size in here is twice. It's 10 gigabytes in RAM, which might correspond to approximately between 100 million and 250 million rows in the application. So with a program move to cloud, which Saulis was presenting, we talk about capacity. So the second one, capacity-based pricing. And application size here is 10 gigabytes in RAM. And I think that 10 gigabytes is pretty big application in most cases. It should be enough. And you should not reach this, and you could move to the cloud right away. In rare cases, when it's not enough and you have bigger applications than that, then you might explore some Qlik Cloud features like application on demand, ODAG, or direct query or live views, which can help you to overcome or to deal with those limitations. But as I said, we are pretty confident that limitation of 10 gigabytes will not be a serious issue to stop migration, well, in your case. Okay, so next one is scheduling of application refreshment, of application reload. So I would say that there are like two cases. One case is self-service reload cases. In that case, users can schedule themselves reloads for the applications which are in personal spaces. So because they are the owners, so they can schedule themselves the reload. And also, it's possible that those users can schedule the reload for the applications in shared spaces because they are working on those applications and they are working in team and collaborating on them. And those schedulers can be based on frequency, date, time, or some event-based, like one task has finished, start another one. So this is usually for self-service. Another case, which is more common, it's governed enterprise application reload. In this case, Qlik Cloud has this Qlik application automation, which can be used for different task chaining of different complexity. It can be simple and complex at the same time. In general, Qlik application automation provides a no-code visual interface that helps you easily build automated analytics and data workflows. So you can build automations with no code editor by selecting different workflow blocks, ordering them in some logical sequence, and then blocks can either process the data or control the logic of the workflow. And each block is can be configured, which lets you create specific workflows that meet your every unique use case. And the last one, in some quite rare cases, your company might have some standard external, let's say, orchestrator, which takes care about which tasks, which element has to be triggered at what time. In that case, it's also possible to use this kind of third-party scheduler via Qlik Cloud APIs. So this is not also, again, not a limitation here. And the last one, and printing, and printing reporting. So, and printing is only for QlikSense client managed. And in Qlik Cloud, almost the same functionality is called Qlik reporting. So I will talk about 4 cases, let's say, or 4 options for reporting. So first of all, it's reporting services, which is built into Qlik automation. Reporting services will take one or more Qlik sheets from multiple applications and compile those into PowerPoint or PDF report. And the result can be then distributed through email, Microsoft Teams, Slack, SharePoint, and others. Another option is tabular reporting. So it's a feature of Qlik application. A report developer can create custom Excel documents from Qlik data and Qlik visualizations. And the result can be then distributed as an Excel file or PDF, and it can be distributed through email or SharePoint channel. So tabular reporting, it's like we have Excel templates in printing, which in my opinion was mainly used as the format of reports. And actually, we have good news that now you're able to export those Excel report templates from Qlik and Printing and import them to Qlik Cloud, which will really be a relief, a big relief, because you will not have to recreate those templates in the cloud. So besides those two, there is also like a new feature which is called subscription reports, which lets you schedule repeated emails which contain your preferred sheets or charts from the application. So you can set some filters on top and have a report with the newest data delivered to your inbox at, let's say, every day in the morning. This feature, I would say, it's similar to what we had in printing. It was called something like entity object. And the last one, it's alerting. So you can define conditions based on measures and dimensions of the data that you want to monitor. And when conditions are met, notifications which have preview data is sent to you. So to summarize everything, well, migration to QlikSense Cloud will not be a lightning fast project, which ends in several days. In most migrations, it will take between maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. It really depends on how big your deployment is. And of course, so how many users, applications, reports needs to be migrated. Are there any customized, very specific components, features that needs to be re-engineered, implemented? Are you planning to do some cleaning existing applications and their components? And do you want to plan and start using some new features on the way? So all of that you have to consider, and all of that might, well, you have to consider during the plan of migration to Qlik Cloud.